PM Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, sometimes I think the Prime Minister must live in a parallel universe. We've just heard from the Prime Minister that she wanted this concluded in December. Mr. Speaker, talk about rewriting history. It was the Prime Minister that denied us the right to have the meaningful vote and to try and rewrite history, and she sits there laughing. You know, sometimes you should be honest with yourself, never mind being honest with the people of the United Kingdom. Mr. Speaker, here we are once again, a statement from the Prime Minister who's lost in a Brexit fantasy. We are 45 days from Scotland being dragged out of the European Union against our will. 45 days from economic catastrophe. She talks about Japan. Goods that could be leaving Japan in the next few days would arrive after that we leave the European Union. We don't know what the tariff regime would be from those importing cars or training shoes or whatever else. The ongoing mess of this government never ceases to amaze. Will the Prime Minister understand that EU leaders have refused to budge on any changes to the withdrawal agreement? Donald Tusk said on the 6th of February, the EU is not making any other offer. What from that statement does the Prime Minister not understand? Why does the Prime Minister not understand of this? The EU will not reopen the withdrawal agreement that she signed up to. Does the Prime Minister realise the danger of running down the clock? 45 days to go, and here we are with a government that can't even deliver a ferry contract. Prime Minister, your response to my letter requesting sight of what economic analysis have done on your own deal poses more questions than answers. The question is simple. Have you done an economic assessment of the impact of your deal on the UK economy? A simple yes or no. Prime Minister, you're asking this House to vote on your deal, and you can't even be honest about the economic impasse. You expect MPs to vote for this. Your binary choice, quite simply, is laughable. There is a growing number calling for an extension to Article 50. Prime Minister, extend Article 50 today. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's deal is a fraud. Ending freedom of movement, leaving the biggest trading bloc in the world. This will be catastrophic for Scotland. The UK is already suffering the cost of Brexit. Will the Prime Minister put an end to this economic madness? Prime Minister, as students get set for university applications and business owners look to prepare for the new financial year, your government is causing a new wave of uncertainty. We on these benches refuse to accept Scotland being dragged out of the European Union against our will. Ultimately, Scotland will have a choice: an independent European nation or remaining part of an inward-looking UK. Scotland's voices must be respected, Prime Minister.
Prime Minister!
I say to the right honourable gentleman, I think that the points that he made are the same points he's been making in response to my statements, regardless of the content of my statements for some time now. He talked about the economic analysis. We did publish an economic analysis of the proposals that the government had put forward.
Order. There's plenty of scope for disagreement about what is true and what isn't true, but in fairness, I repeat the point that the person who has the floor must be heard. The Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I say to the right honourable gentleman that I think in his intervention from a sedentary position, he may have inadvertently misled the House on this matter. No. The government.
What was that? Order. Forgive me. I didn't hear what was said. I hope the word liar wasn't used. But order. I'm perfectly capable of handling this matter with alacrity, and I shall do so. If that word was used without equivocation or qualification, that word must be withdrawn at once. Order. If a member on the front bench used that word, I'm sorry, I'm not debating it, I'm not arguing, I'm not negotiating. That word must be withdrawn at once. Who was the person that used the word? Mr. Blackford? I'm advised, I admit I didn't see which member used it. I'm advised, I think on good authority, that that word was used by the leader of the Scottish National Party. If so, I want the debate to continue, and it will, but if so, I simply ask the right honourable gentleman to withdraw that word. He cannot accuse another member in this House of dishonesty. Withdraw.
In courtesy to yourself, I withdraw for courtesy to yourself.
No, there are plenty of precedents for that. I remember doing it once myself. And I remember a member of the Shadow Cabinet from West Bromwich once doing it out of deference to the chair rather than the person whom he'd been attacking. That's enough. That's enough. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, if I could continue my explanation to the right honourable gentleman. As I said, the government put forward economic analysis of the deal that the government had put forward. We did that in the economic analysis that was published earlier before the withdrawal agreement was put towards the House. What we also did in that was to recognise that the political declaration had areas within it which had not yet been confirmed, and there were variations in relation to the degree of friction across the border that would come from that, and we published we could have taken a very low variation, which would have been very close to the government's deal in the economic analysis. We could have taken a high. We took a midpoint. I think that was entirely fair for the government to do. What the economic analysis of the deal that the government had put forward showed was that if you were going to honour the referendum, the deal that actually delivered best for the British economy was the deal that the government had put forward. Now, the right honourable gentleman also talks about putting an end to the current situation. Well, as I've indicated, we can indeed move forward when we agree a deal across this House. And if the right honourable gentleman is so concerned about avoiding no deal, I assume that when a deal is brought back from the European Union this next time, then he and his members of the SNP in this House will be voting for a deal in order to support the future of the United Kingdom. And then finally, once again, the right honourable gentleman talks about the economic impact on Scotland of leaving the European Union, and talks virtually in the same breath about his view that Scotland should be independent from the United Kingdom. And it may raise cheers on the SNP benches, but it wouldn't raise cheers from those people in Scotland whose economic future depends on being a member of the UK.
Order. Of course there is enormous interest, which, as per usual, I want to accommodate. Can I just appeal, please, to colleagues at this time, with the country watching us, let's have a robust but respectful debate. It is perfectly possible for colleagues to make their points with considerable force, but to do so with courtesy. And I know we'll be led in this matter by a former party leader and a notably courteous